All right, everyone. Hello. My name is Arthur Savage. I am an employee at Red Hat, and I've been working on post-quantum cryptography for about 6 months now. Let's see. Right, so I'm about to give a 30-minute talk in 15 minutes, so I hope you'll excuse me for having to skip over a few details. Yesterday, Joe Winchester gave a really great talk talking about the details of the vulnerabilities introduced by quantum computers. I really suggest you check it out. And all of the details are on my slides as well, so if anything doesn't make sense, please refer back to them. They're uploaded online. Because what I want to focus on is how to actually use them. Post-quantum cryptography is a complicated topic, and the implementations are chaotic. And we will talk about that in the context of Sigstore as a case study. Okay. So this is a security conference. I don't have to convince anyone here that cryptography is important and everywhere. Let's see. And you may have heard that a large enough cryptographically relevant quantum computer has the ability to break RSA and elliptic curve cryptography. You may have also heard about the harvest now, decrypt later attack, which is, scraping up communications and then decrypting them at a later date when quantum computers are large enough. It has definitely gotten the most press, as you might say. But there is an equally important vulnerability that has gotten less of a platform, and that is digital forgery. So at the same time as harvest now, decrypt later, or at the same time that classic cryptography is broken, digital signatures will be able to be forged. It violates the property of non-repudiation, which makes them important in a different way. So, you can have your secure software, but if you can't distribute it securely, then you have a problem. And timelines for digital signatures are actually more aggressive than for the key exchange mechanisms. Right, so this is the problem in a nutshell. And the best part about it is that it is being tackled in an open source way. Again, Joe had a much better anecdote prepared than I did because he worked through this, and I was 4 years old when Y2K happened. So I won't try to talk about it too much, but we are all aware of how much hype there was. There was misinformation, especially by people who are not software engineers. So, and it was surrounded around a legitimate problem. So, and the threat of quantum computers is similar in that, it's kind of, oops, hang on, there we go. There's some misinformation and hype surrounding a legitimate problem. Now, yes. So the problem of Q-Day, as I will call it. It's also called Y2Q, but if I say that over and over again, I will mess it up. And it is definitely much more complicated, as we'll see in the rest of this talk, and it's more serious. But it is also easy to mitigate. Y2K is a success story in a lot of ways. So I am hoping that we will have a similar result when quantum computers break classic encryption. All right. And it's happening in open source every step of the way. So you can see a lot of this was started by NIST. They have had multiple rounds of competitions for potential algorithms that might be quantum resistant. And that's been ongoing since 2016, 2017, multi-year progress with lots of peer review. And they have settled on a couple algorithms that have been standardized in FIPS documents. There have also been plenty of international contributions. The European Commission released their own PQC roadmap and timelines, which have been implemented among many European member states. South Korea has also had its own competitions on selected algorithms. And China has their own algorithm submission process as well. And this is just a sample of the most popular algorithms. There's more than this, and different ones are preferred by different nation states. So you can take your pick. And this is a little bit about what it actually is starting to look like in progress. So this was taken from the Post-Quantum Cryptography Coalition. And you can see that it's a little chaotic. There's a lot of overlap between algorithms. You can see ML-Chem, ML-DSA a lot, but this introduces a big challenge for software engineers. And these recommendations are changing constantly, every couple months, honestly. So it's really hard for people to keep up with. So what we're kind of seeing, and will continue to see for many years, decades even, is a cycle of algorithm submission, standardization, releasing documents on how to implement the algorithms. Like FIPS documents are typically pseudocode, which is then implemented in the development stage by software developers, including open source developers. And it kind of results in this patchwork implementation of different algorithms. Some are not implemented, some it's all over the place. And then the applications that are downstream can find themselves blocked by whether a necessary algorithm is or is not available. You can also see, so this heat map shows the current PQC situation for much of PKI. You will see missing from this table are core cryptographic packages of languages, so like Golang, Rust. These are languages that security folks rely on very heavily. And what that kind of leads to in practice is that you might need an algorithm, and it's missing if you're trying to use it. So what we're kind of seeing going on in open source communities is a kind of tug of war between a crypto agility stance and a locked-in crypto stance. So crypto agility being that you can swap out your algorithms if one is found to have a vulnerability, or if a government changes their mind and wants something else. And that gives you a lot of strength in such a volatile cryptographic world, but it also presents a real challenge for software developers. So tech debt, it's hard on maintainers. There's potential for misuse, like downgrade attacks if it's implemented incorrectly. And there aren't necessarily easy answers, which is why it's important to start thinking about this early and often. And now we get to talk about Sigstore. So if you are not already familiar with Sigstore, which I imagine most of us are, it is a really excellent open source project helping developers sign their software and artifacts easily and securely. It is also massive. There's like 63 different repositories in just the core of Sigstore, and then countless other open source projects rely upon it or use some version, like some part of Sigstore within them, which means making changes to it is hard and happens slowly. Because of this, Sigstore as a whole has adopted a philosophy of stability for very good reasons. They pick a core selection of algorithms, specifically from Golang standard cryptographic library, which is a very strong decision to make, except for crypto agility. Because Golang also has a philosophy of stability. They're very conservative about which algorithms they implement because they make them highly secure and support them for a very long time. So they make their changes very intentionally. Again, also a strong cryptographic stance, but this is really hard for PQC because of how fast things are changing. So, we have been exploring, how to potentially integrate post-quantum cryptographic algorithms into Sigstore, and we've run into a couple blockers. These are industry-wide problems as well. So obviously, Golang is locked to classic crypto, including for their X509 package. Golang follows WebPKI pretty closely, so that makes complete sense, but it is also like a blocker for Sigstore. And they don't have ML-DSA. I believe ML-Chem is coming out in the next version of Golang, so that's amazing. Again, that prioritizes harvest now, decrypt later attacks and not signatures. So, and it's not just Golang that made that decision. And also, like I said before, making small changes has big repercussions, so things have to be done carefully. So now I get to hype up all the amazing work that my colleagues have been doing. So a couple years ago, Trail of Bits released a roadmap for how to introduce crypto agility and post-quantum algorithms into Sigstore, and I've spent the past couple years implementing that alongside all of the core Sigstore maintainers who've been making it happen. They've made a lot of really excellent contributions. They have also written their own pure Go ML-DSA, which became available a couple of weeks ago. Definitely check it out if you're interested. It's been a really big effort, so kudos to them. And also, one of my upstream colleagues, Zach Steinler, has released this blog a couple months ago that illustrates Sigstore's long-term post-quantum cryptographic goals and timelines and its general posture. It's a really good read if you want to have some context about how Sigstore is approaching the problem and how perhaps you might in the future if you are interested in tackling this problem as well. I can also speak for my team at Red Hat. We've been, doing our best to put this problem into context, having a lot of conversations through issues, PRs, community meetings, to try and scope out what sticking points are, how we can help in Sigstore and beyond. We've made some initial additional changes to the algorithm registry for whenever ML-DSA becomes available, and are also experimenting with external Sigstore plugins to see if we can introduce a way to use a non-Go standard cryptographic library in a way that allows you to use a more experimental crypto without compromising the stability of Sigstore. It's all very nascent work, but it's really wonderful to be a part of. We're making really great progress. So. The takeaway from all this is that it's hard, and this is a many-year process. I took this quote directly from NIST's website, and the most important points are in bold here. 2 decades, and this started in 2016. That's 9 years ago. So think about how much time you have left, and really beginning now is very important. So that's where your homework comes in. Look at your open source projects. Think about where you use cryptography all the way up through your dependencies. Read up on what post-quantum cryptography is and how you might need to use it in the future. There's a lot of education involved, and it's not necessarily one-to-one with classic cryptography. And you can try using it. There are already some really amazing implementations out there in C, TLS, OpenSSL, OpenPGP, all stuff you can experiment with. And we will all find out the due date together the hard way. Thank you very much to everyone in my team who has supported me, everyone upstream. This has been a really wonderful project to work on, so I'm very grateful, and thank you all for attending. Any questions? No? Yes. You're asking me when I think Q-Day is? Sorry, I'm having a little trouble here. So when it comes to when Q-Day might be, it's not entirely obvious. There have been some really recent and incredible advancements in quantum computing. I am probably not the best person to speak about it. I can tell you that the timelines for US national security software are pretty aggressive, so digital signing is supposed to be in place by the end of this year, which you can think about how ambitious that is. And a lot of, as a whole, for the whole ecosystem, most timelines are by 2030. And I'm talking about, when I say timelines, I mean by when various government regulations are expecting post-quantum cryptography to be implemented and default in software. Does that answer your question? Yeah, like it's hard to say exactly. And again, I don't really have the answer. Various estimates I've heard have been anywhere between like a couple years to a decade. It could have already happened. It may take longer than that. Who knows? Yes. Yes.
One of the criticisms or let's say worries I often hear about switching over, especially to DQC, is that these algorithms haven't had nearly as many years out in the field battle tested, and may end up having problems that they can weaker in the classical domain than battle tested, at 25519 or anything like that. What's your opinion / position?
I completely agree with you. So in case you didn't hear it, the question was about how these algorithms are not, as you say, battle tested. They haven't spent a long time being implemented in the real world like RSA has. The only way to figure that out really is to use them. There's been a lot of really amazing research done in various cryptographic academic communities, and it's relatively promising. But you're right, it still does need to be tested in the real world. And what is provided in the FIPS documents, again, is pseudocode. It still has to be built, tested by cryptography researchers, by software engineers to figure out, okay, does this work? And that's another reason why crypto agility is important. Because, okay, maybe we all implement ML-DSA and then there's something wrong with it and we have to all switch, and having the ability to do that is really important. But it is a precarious situation by all regards, for sure. I don't have a good answer except we got to try it. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you all very much.